Hi, everyone. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to have a little listen to some of our thoughts about this really strange time that we're in regards to COVID-19. So, my name's Ali, and I'm the psychosocial team leader for the Queensland team. And with me today is Sanchana. Hi.
Thanks, Ali. Hi, everyone. I'm Sanchana, and I'm the psychosocial team leader for the New South Wales team, and I'm joining you all from Sydney today.
So we wanted to take some time out to have a little bit of a chat about isolation, and so many of us are feeling the changes at the moment right now. But something that's really interesting about isolation is that this isn't new for a lot of the young people that we support, as they felt isolated before during their cancer experience. But now the whole world is getting a bit of a sense of what that feels like. So we were hoping to have a bit of a conversation about what might be happening for people, what people might be feeling, and also give you some ideas on some ways to manage. So, Sanchana, I'll throw to you to get us going.
Okay. So why does isolation feel so hard? There's a few reasons why the current self-isolation and physical distancing and lockdown measures can feel really hard for a lot of people. So one of the things we're all experiencing at the moment is a sense of grief. Planned events have been cancelled, our holidays have been either cut short or completely cancelled, and we can no longer make plans to even catch up with friends or extended family. Some young people we know are grieving the loss of milestone birthdays, such as their 18th or their 21st, while others are grieving the loss of events such as their formal, which is yet to come. Added to that, there's also the loss of jobs and loss of life as we know it. Moreover, there have been changes that have been made to funerals due to physical distancing, and this can make an already difficult process so much more harder. Apart from that, there's also anxiety. Now, the current pandemic is a threat. Our brains are just naturally wired to look for danger. So back in the day, it was those ancestors who survived that were the ones who were best at spotting danger. So as a result, those genes got passed down from one generation to the next generation. And so now we can't help but look for danger wherever we go. Now, when we spot it, our primitive fight or flight response kicks in. So with the pandemic, the constant news about it, the constant uncertainty and the change, our fight or flight response has basically been in overdrive. But because it actually can't respond in a very simple and straightforward way, such as run or hide away, the brain is basically just really confused. Okay? Moreover, as we've been consuming more and more news about COVID, our bodies are also secreting cortisol, which is the hormone that drives our fight or flight response. Cortisol causes us to hyperfocus, and it also makes it that much more harder to look away from any potential threat. This then obviously leads to trouble focusing on things other than the threat, thereby making our day-to-day decisions and what used to be probably very straightforward just that much more harder. For our young people and families with cancer, this anxiety is almost worse, because not only are you worried about the virus itself due to being immunocompromised, but it can also evoke other anxieties about ongoing cancer treatment, what that might look like, any ongoing checkups, the possibility of the impact of catching the virus itself, the anxiety of what isolating during treatment was like before, and basically all the other unknowns at the moment. Okay. Overall, there's also that anxiety about job security, about being able to find jobs, any financial pressures, as well as just being uncertain how long this entire situation is going to last for. Another anxiety that isolation brings for some of our young people is a reminder of what life was like during treatment. Now, if you were a patient of cancer, you would have been isolated, and apart from being physically unwell at the time, the lack of connection with other people would have been extremely hard. This current forced isolation, we find, is actually bringing back memories and legitimate fear of times like that. Now, human beings are social animals. Whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, the fact is we all need connection of some sort. Now, with the current rules around physical distancing, it makes it hard for us to get that same amount of connection. Moreover, we're all missing out on a sense of touch. Now, when you touch someone, especially in the form of hugs, it releases a hormone called oxytocin, which is a feel-good hormone. Now, in the current environment, not being able to hug or touch someone, and possibly for a longer period of time, can mean that we actually don't get this release of oxytocin. This is especially the case for some of our young people who might be living on their own or away from family. Being isolated can be so much harder when you start to feel lonely and disconnected. Now, loneliness is very different from being alone or from solitude. Those are moments that most people tend to cherish. When you're lonely, however, you feel quite disconnected. You feel like no one understands and no one could know what you're experiencing. We can feel lonely in a crowd too, so it's not just something we feel when we're alone. In this current situation, we know a lot of individuals have been feeling lonely. Friends for Good, which is a Melbourne service that tackles loneliness, has actually had a 200% jump in calls to their helpline in recent weeks due to the strict lockdown measures. Lifeline also had an extensive number of calls on Good Friday compared to their normal rate of calls. And let's face it, whether you're isolated with your family or whether you're by yourself, sometimes you can feel like you're the only individual in this entire situation.
Absolutely. So Sanchana and I both work one-to-one with young people, just like you, and we've been noticing that the people that we're talking to have so much wisdom about how to cope with difficult times based on how they've managed other situations in the past, like having cancer in the family. So as Sanchana's mentioned, there might be a whole range of memories coming up at the moment, some probably really challenging, and I also wonder if there are some learnings that you can bring into this experience. In saying that, it's important to note that it's really okay for things not to be okay at the moment. You don't have to find a positive spin on this situation. It can feel scary, infuriating, and sad all on its own. And it's really important to be kind to yourself through whatever's coming up for you at the moment. But I'll touch on that more a little bit later. Something I've been speaking to a number of my clients about recently, who've given me permission to share with you, is that they're finding that they're needing to care for not only themselves at the moment, but also their friends or family, and other people that are around them too. It's a time where every person is impacted in their own different ways, which can make it really difficult to support yourself and those other people that are around you. One of my clients spoke about the challenge of being a support person to his girlfriend by distance who's lost her job and is feeling really distressed about this. I'm not sure if any of you guys have had that experience of feeling like there's not a lot of space for your own feelings because you're looking out for other people. That can be even more heightened at the moment, especially when you're looking at families or housemates being cooped up in the house together without that same ability to get some space. What have you heard from some of the young people that you've been supporting, Sanchana?
So with the young people that I've reached out to, it has varied from those who are struggling to cope with the new way of living to those who are actually coping as well as you can in this situation. One of my clients, for instance, told me that they've actually taken some time off work and are instead just focusing on their uni studies as a way to cope. In addition, they're also trying to do things that they already enjoy doing. So including things like playing video games, painting, baking, spending time with their pets, exercising a little bit and doing some gardening. But they also said that one of the biggest things that's helping them at the moment is to remind themselves to not stress if things don't get done when they wanted them done. And the picture that you see on the screen at the moment, that's some painting that they have been doing, and they've given me permission to share it with everyone as well. So Ali and I and our teams across the country have been talking a lot with each other and with young people about what we might be able to do to feel better and to get a little bit of extra support at the moment. Ali, do you mind talking through some of these ideas with everyone?
Sure, not a problem. I think it's really important to have some strategies up your sleeves for moments like this, keeping in mind what I said earlier about this most likely not being the first time that you've struggled. So I wonder whether you might have a think back to some of those times in the past that have been difficult for you and think back to what helped you back then. You might find that some of those skills are transferable to now. Another thing that might be helpful is to try to keep a routine going. And it might look different to when you were getting up, going to school, to uni, or to work, but you can find a routine that fits the situation right now. This might start by getting up, having a shower, and making sure you change out of your pajamas. Now look, I love a pajama day, and there might be some days where that's really the best thing for you, which is totally fine. But I also know that I am far less productive when I'm not dressed for the day ahead. So also getting up, getting dressed, making sure that you exercise regularly, eat regular meals throughout the day, and try to go to sleep at a regular time. All of that helps to give you a sense of control over your time and your day, and it's going to help to give you some more motivation to get some things done. Keep a sense of balance with the news. It's important to stay informed about what's going on, but also to limit your access to that rolling news cycle that can increase your anxiety. And it might not really give you any more information that you need in that moment, but you're more likely to feel anxious after watching the news. So I find when you're feeling anxious, I'm conscious of when I choose to check in on the news. I'm really conscious that I will check first thing in the morning, I'll check in later in the evening, and I plan to do something nice for myself afterwards to re-energize myself after that anxiety starts to rise a little bit. So that could be making my morning cup of coffee after I've watched the news, or watching something lighthearted after I've seen something that's a little bit more distressing. Sometimes it's not possible to do that, but I think it's important to be really aware of how the news might be impacting your mood at the moment. Do some things that make you feel good. So for some people, that's going to be engaging in calming practices like yoga and meditation. For others, it's playing with pets, watching movies, or baking some sweet treats, if you're lucky enough to find some flour at the shops at the moment. Now, you might find that you don't do everything every day, but it's really good to know what might help to lift your spirits and have some of those options available. This could be a time for experimentation. You might try learning the guitar like you've always said that you would, reading that book you've been putting off. There are some really good positives for the extra time that you have available at the moment. It could be the time to create that epic playlist that you've always been wanting to. I'd also just like to note that physical distancing does not equal social distancing. Find ways to connect with friends in the online space. Canteen Connect, Zoom, House Party, and all of those other apps that are around, they can be really helpful at facilitating a connection. Just be careful with privacy over some of these platforms and make sure that you understand the terms and conditions before you use them. The same social media dangers exist, so just be really conscious of how you engage online. But there's no reason that you can't pop into a video call, watch a movie together with friends, or have your coffee catch up. I've even seen some people having board game nights together over Zoom.
So things are very different in the world right now. And if there's one thing we'd like to say to you, is that it's okay to feel any number of feelings about this. It's okay to not be able to do all the different things that you might want to do as well. So please be kind to yourself and allow yourself a moment to tap into what's going on for you. Take a break from it, and also to talk to someone about it if that's helpful.
Yeah, that could be your friends, your family. It could be a support service like some of the ones that are listed up here on the screen. There are some really great options to have in your toolkit. It could be contacting your Canteen key worker, hopping onto Canteen Connect, or contacting some of those 24/7 support services that are available.
So take care of yourself and of each other, and please reach out. Remember, we're all in this together. Thank you.